Well, yes, indeed. We're continuing our conversation on the state of the polity, the Southern Governor's resolution yesterday. And we've got His Excellency David Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum, joining us today. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
I will call you both. Hello, good morning, Chamberlain.
This huge part, I mean, there are all important points that were made yesterday at that forum, but this emphasis on 2023 presidency being zoned to the south, why is this so much of an issue? Does that suggest that there are attempts to see it go perhaps up north, and that's why southern governors are saying, nope, if anyone has such ideas, perish your thought, it's going to come to the south?
Thank you, Chamberlain. I've spoken so much about this. I wouldn't want to speak much about this issue of 2023 and zoning. But the truth remains that a number of us, the southern governors that were in that meeting, and did say that presidency must come to the south, especially PDP, are not being honest. Why that I say they're not being honest is, let's see what they come up in terms of their zoning in the next few weeks. It is when PDP comes up with their zoning formula in the next few weeks that I will know whether they are honest or not. And if they are not honest, it may have an issue in our unity, our southern governors. Because you don't say something different and you go about doing, things, you do not mean, and you say what you do not mean. So let me answer that question, when PDP comes up with their zoning.
So does that suggest that you have it on good authority that they will not zone the presidency to the south, the PDP?
One or two governors that own PDP, their body language suggests that, and I can tell you from a reliable source, that they are not thinking that way, just for their own interest.
PDP, or do they own parties? I thought it's a collective action of all the players in the party.
He that, pays the piper dictates the tune. So, Chamberlain, you're in this country, you know what is happening. So, let's wait and see.
So, are there governors that own the APC?
It's a collective responsibility with our leader, Mr. President. We discuss issues, we put opinions together, and that's why I told you that I'm happy to be in APC, because it is a party of equals.
So when you say that, I mean, in the coming days or weeks, you'll know whether the PDP is being honest. What would be the definition of honesty for you? I mean, coming from the PDP, which decision would you say, okay, this is honest, this is dishonest?
The leadership of PDP is in the hands of governors, and the southern governors constitute majority there. So if they mean what they are saying, they have to ensure that, presidency is zoned to south, and that's why we know that what we are saying in our meeting is what we mean to do.
So, talking about that meeting, I mean, you were represented at that particular meeting, and just as, I mean, you are the chairman of Southeast Governors Forum. Yesterday we had the Southern Governors Forum, Nigerian Southern Governors Forum meeting, and we have these blocks across the country for the northern region, north central, and the rest. Just how powerful, if I could use that term, how powerful are the resolutions that come out of those meetings? Because for the Southeast Governors Forum, for example, you might come up with something different. And for the Southwest Governors Forum, there might be something entirely different. Now we have the Southern Governors Forum with this resolution. So just how powerful is the Southern Governors Forum in general Can it override the decisions of the, can I say, smaller blocks, as it were?
Well, the states are federating units, and that has made the governors to be very powerful by the reason of our constitution. There are a couple of decisions taken at the Southern Governors meeting. I know that, together there is sincerity of purpose in that. But when it comes to politics, I see, the voice of Jacob, or the hands of Jacob and the voice of Esau, so to say. So I think it's a very powerful, forum. It's a forum that, was not serious before, but I think that's serious, but not in politics.
How do you mean not in politics? Is it the fact that they belong to, at least they are representations across the parties, or just personally, politics is not really a thing that the governors agree upon?
There's supposed to be ethics in every organization. I find it difficult if APC, PDP, ABGA governors meet, and just after that meeting, then APC governors will go and meet and castigate PDP governors, or PDP governors will go and meet and castigate APC governors. I find it difficult to understand. There ought to be ethics, there ought to be respect. For me, the APC is the ruling party. There must be one or two things that the center is doing, that may not be good with the opposition. But that's not why they will carpet the entire party, if we are serious. You can highlight those things, and say this and this are, but if you carpet the entire party, or I come out and I carpet the entire PDP, it means that I'm not serious. We sit together, we take decision, we drink together, and then we go out and we stab ourselves at the back. So I don't like that. And that's why I like, our forum chairman. There are things that will come up in our forum. He said, no, even though this person does not belong to the ruling party, but he's a colleague, we will not take the decision. This is how it's supposed to be. And so that's why I said, look, all the PDP governors have not extremely very well in the eyes of the public. Same with APC. And don't forget that the states take 48% of the federation account, while the federal government takes 52%. And so you cannot blame the entire problems of Nigeria on federal government. We also share in the blames. And so we shouldn't pretend as if we are saints and federal government, is the problem.
Okay, just to be clear that at least I understand you, and I believe the majority of our viewers understand you. Just to be clear, are you saying that on the one hand, not all governors that were there yesterday agreed with the resolutions that were put out? Because the statement says the governors, the southern governors, resolved as follows and listed it. Are you saying that not all those resolutions were agreed upon by the governors represented there?
You see, in any gathering, the minority will have their say and the majority will have their way. For example, there was an issue that came up, and I'm not sure it's very clear to a number of our colleagues on the issue of VAT, but it's very clear to me. And we took a stand, as a state, with our leaders on this issue of, VAT war that is ongoing. And so my deputy carried it on to say, yes, this is what my governor, is saying, and this is what the state is saying. And he went ahead to explain. And so there are some other deputies that represented their, governors. But, together they were in the minority. So it didn't stop the majority from coming up with their communique. But when it comes to implementation and the voicing out, how we continue to say, look, this is where I stand. And if it is a choice, we choose what will benefit my state.
Well, we'll come to that VAT in a moment. But what will the presidency not coming to the South mean for, because they say for equity, fairness, and justice? Will there be any implications? What do you see playing out if that doesn't happen?
Well, we are facing, not just security challenges, we are facing economic challenges, and it's not only peculiar to Nigeria, it's globally. And as a child of God and somebody who believes that, power, belongs to God. So we rely on God to take this decision in terms of, where the presidency will come from, and in terms of who will become the president. I think that we have prayed enough, and God, would have helped us to have mercy on us. It's not just who becomes the president. God, we also touch the hearts of the leaders. No man lives alone, It is a collective responsibility. And so we must decide as leaders to sit down and say, look, enough is enough. Let's secure the future of our children. So this issue of, presidency is very important, because in the eyes of the public, it will tend to, down station if it comes to the South. And when it comes to the South, then you look at the parameters, where should they go, for equity, fairness, and justice. But supposing God decides otherwise, who are we to oppose God?
Moving forward now, you did talk about this question of VAT. What is your position on the subject matter?
Thank you, Chamberlain. The matter is very simple. I'm not going to go into the merits of who should collect VAT and who should not collect VAT. Let me make it clear that Channel misquoted me one time when I said that FIRS should collect on behalf of states. No. What I meant, and I still mean it now, is status quo. What was in the beginning should continue to be. My position about that is that you don't shock a people, you don't shock a nation, you don't shock an economy. For example, let me use my state, Ebonyi State. Ebonyi State is, a marriage of people from Anambra. We were in Anambra State to Enugu. We were in Imo State to Abia State, and we came together and, carved out and became Ebonyi State. The same with Zamfara State. The same with, I think, Ekiti State. The same with Bayelsa State. There were 6 of us that were curated. In those, years we sojourned in those states, we developed the economies of those states. We were curated and we were not, given anything, to jumpstart in our economy. From the very day we curated, we started to struggle. And this is a fact. And it's also a fact that there is no state in this nation that didn't have the help of, one other state or the other, to be where they are today. So it is very important to note that when they say that this VAT collection is part of, true restructuring, I say I never believed in total restructuring. I believe in administrative restructuring. And then I believe, for example, that we should have Southeast Economic Commission. Where will we use the resources of the nation like we did, with the resources of the nation to build the first, capital of Nigeria in Lagos? We have a lot of infrastructure there. So it's our collective sweat. So when you come now and say, oh, let everyone collect their VAT and keep, I'm going to lose over 40% of my resources. And that can lead to a very serious matter. And people argue, oh, we should look inwards. Look inwards to do what? We are running a mono economy. Everything is government now. So if you want us to look inwards, you have to curate, resources for us to develop where we have comparative advantage. That is my position.
Just to be clear, Governor, you recently had a meeting with Khan, and it was there you made that a very interesting statement that a chain is as strong as its weakest link, and just goes to show how you view this, and you've referenced that. But with that particular statement, and this is what you said at that event, you said that allow the federal government to collect VAT and share for us. Those were your words. It wasn't Channel's interpreting. You said, I will continue to advocate that the federal government collect tax and the VAT and share for the state. So that means that FIRS should collect it and share to the states.
Yeah. As it was in the beginning.
So we didn't misquote you. You said you were misquoted.
No, I think somebody says that I said they should collect on behalf of maybe one of the speakers in your show says that I said they should collect, and they share for, and they give to the states. I didn't say so. I mean how it has always been. It should be. Don't forget that the federal government will be contributing. I don't have the statistics, but they should be the major contributor to this bad thing. And in their shares, in sharing it, we have the states and local government, we have 85%, and the federal government gets 15%. Now, the federal government, and the super states will be the most beneficiary, but a number of states will collapse. And by the reason of rampant law, it wasn't that, any state should eat and have so much surplus, and then some other states don't even have what to eat. We have to be our brother's keeper. We have to see how we can grow the economies of the weakest states. Otherwise, we breed a lot of insecurities, to those super states. This is very important.
So, in other words, you're making reference to what politically should be, because, I mean, they are citing legal references concerning why they are doing what they're doing, interpreting the law as they understand it. And so, is there anything wrong with that if they're going by the laws?
I'm interpreting the situation, with the law and side by side with the security. When you come to law, when you come to delivering judgment and so on and so forth, you look at the stability of a nation. The nation comes up first before we go into the merits and demerits of the case. So you do something and the entire nation is destabilized. And so even if you have all the money in the world, you will not be able to, use it. So it is very important. And even in the revenue sharing formula, we have the same kind of parameter, where some, weak states, are helped, so to say. So this is very important, and it's coming at a very bad time. So I'm pleading with my colleagues to sheathe their swords. Let us pass through this, challenging moment before we start looking at who is right and who is wrong. And I'm also encouraging the federal government to look the way of Ebonyi State. We are highly disadvantaged. You say we should grow the economy. With what? We don't have money to grow the economy. We have agriculture, we have a solid mineral, and our solid mineral is being stolen away. And then the 13% derivative given to those who don't even have any solid mineral, but maybe liquid mineral. But it's being stolen to their ports, and we are denied the resources. And again, our chippings in the way of solid mineral and agriculture, have been used to grow the economies of other states. So Ebonyi State should be pitied. We are in a very difficult situation. We have a lot of our youth unemployed. This can't be done overnight. We are doing our best.
Oh, Your Excellency, when people see how there's a lot of jostling, political contestation when it has to do with governorship, even several other positions. So, and many of them come up with a lot of promises when they say, look, this is what I want to do when I become governor. I will do this. Some say I will turn it to Dubai in how many weeks. So does that then mean really and truly that what they are actually saying is that they rely on VAT and the revenue that comes in as presently constituted? Because there are so many other people who say, look, states have got a lot of resources. They just need personnel and persons to channel those resources and let states leverage on that. They can have access to a lot more resources than they currently are at the moment. And that's the point some make when they talk about fiscal federalism.
Thank you very much. When people criticize governors, when people, are jostling for their jobs, I just sit back and say, look, people darken counsel without knowledge, because they don't know what is in it. And that's why my former boss, immediate past governor of my state, said it would have been good that everybody sits on this seat, one day, so that we all understand what is going on. One day I went to see Mr. President, and that was on Monday. And I saw more than 20 different, people coming to see him. And I asked myself, so this is what Mr. President goes through. I didn't know that. The same thing with the governors. You don't know what the governors go through. For example, somebody who cannot define what GDP is and how to go about it is jostling to be a governor. That's very funny. Yes, when I was campaigning, I made promises. Why? Because I was party chairman for 4 years. I was deputy governor for 4 years. And so I had to understudy the state, understudy their character, the culture, the mode, the moods of the people, and the way governance is being done. So I made the promises based on the resources I know will be available. And we have delivered over 95% on those promises. But those who have not tasted government are jostling. But let me tell you, Chamberlain, that governance is becoming more challenging and more difficult. When we were campaigning in 2015, we didn't have this high level of stability in our economy. The oil price was still very good at that time, but today it's a very volatile oil price. There was a time in this country we had so much oil, but we didn't have anybody to buy it, and it went down as much as to give it down free. So I want to say that people don't really know what is in governance and are jostling for it.
So for Ebonyi State, I mean, we've seen some of the projects done under your administration, some of the other initiatives. Just recently, you had something with youths empowerment and the rest. I mean, Abakaliki rice is quite famous in the country, and some other agricultural produce from your state. And a lot of people look at Ebonyi State and say Ebonyi is really blessed. And I mean, I've stayed in Ebonyi State for about a year, and I can say that much. So in terms of this, fiscal federalism conversation, ensuring that states are viable, for your state, I mean, when you measure all these, the conversations happening, the moves, especially perhaps with VAT and stamp duties and the rest, for Ebonyi State, if, for example, VAT were to be collected by states, how viable do you think your state will be?
I've said that my state will not be viable, and I continue to say that more than other 30 states will not be viable. We should not break the state. So whatever thing we are doing, we have to think about the nation first. Let's study a while and see how we can pass this river. And then we can come to the fact of who is right and who is wrong. And you see, true federalism is not done in a day. If we want to do a restructure, we have to have a gradual process to do that. You say, yes, agriculture, Abakaliki rice. Do we develop it with, hose and, cutlasses? If you mechanize the agriculture of Ebonyi State, yes, we can say we have means of livelihood. And then when you come to the infrastructure we have put in place, yes, because I have understudied the situation, but the situation are quite challenging on a daily basis. When we came, in 2015, a bag of cement was, I think, 1,800. Today it's going to 3,500 to 4,000. The ton of rot was, 230,000 per ton. Today, a ton of rot is going for 550,000 per ton. So it's quite challenging and it's difficult. So the economy of Ebonyi State is not developed. It is now that we are trying to put down some solid infrastructure, like the Kindebi University, where we're going to have, a cleanup of medical tourism into that place. We are building our international airport, the first of its kind with a concrete runway. We're building the biggest, mall in Africa. We're building the biggest market in this thing. We are opening all the roads. The roads are key to development of economy. But let me tell you something about the economy of all the states. Think about what is going on. Are the people ready to even, use these hoes and cutlasses to develop agriculture? It's a very difficult task. We have assessed over 12 billion to put in agriculture as a kind of loan. Our people took it as a kind of empowerment from government. What do you do? Go to court to imprison your people? No. So far it is circulating within the state. So my point is that the economies of the weak states, should be developed. And don't tell me that if we cannot compete, we should merge. Merge with what? It is only when we are where we are, and don't forget, we need one more state in Southeast, that we can compete very well.
Well, Governor, I mean, you just reeled out some of the achievements of your administration. You talked about infrastructure. You've also referenced agriculture in some way. In fact, I remember watching a documentary, I think it was last week, about some of the achievements of your administration in agriculture, in infrastructure, empowerment, and the rest. And I mean, one would think it's a no-brainer that with some of these achievements, I mean, there can be some viability. The young people have gotten jobs, at least referencing the empowerment you've done, so they can at least provide some employment, not just for themselves, for others, and of course, eventually get some form of returns to the government, agriculture as well, infrastructure as well. So are you saying that your government, your administration has not achieved enough to ensure that the state is viable, at least can be getting returns for it. So how much longer time would you say you need to ensure that the state is stable and viable enough?
You should be asking how much more money do we need, not time. You know, the modest achievements we have done in all areas of infrastructure amounts to chasing a lion with a cutlass. Sometimes the lion, you know, you may be lucky to cut part of it. We have achieved quite a lot in agriculture in terms of we have waste to wealth pulverization plant where we make our natural organic fertilizer. We have 2 fertilizer plants we installed. We have the 3 agricultural industrial zones. We have a number of rice mills. We have a lot of clusters. We have a program of 1 man 1 hectare. Yes, all these things are there, but it's aging our people. We are doing all these things with hoes and cutlasses. So we need money to develop our agriculture. And that's when you can say that agriculture can contribute to, our economy of the state. We are just suffering with our, life to feed the nation. It's not supposed to be so. So when you count agriculture as part of our competitive advantage, yes, but it needed to be developed. So with the solid mineral.
It then raises the question as to, does that then mean that all of the agricultural policies and inputs of the current administration is not yielding as much fruit as it ought to?
I think the problem is that, if, for example, there is 5 billion to develop agriculture, it's spread into the 36 states, and there are so many programs, in this direction. I think that we should say, for example, let us develop rice in Ebonyi State. We're still the best and the highest producer of rice, irrespective of any politics regarding that, and we're still the best in yam production, irrespective of any politics about. Make no mistake about that. So I should be talking that we want to develop these 2, staple crops, and there should be a concerted effort, to doing this. That is what I mean. It's not to ask us to try our hands in cassava, try our hands in maize, try our hands in sorghum. No, this is where we are the best. And so we should be helped, to develop this, mechanize it. Let us produce rice 3 times in a year. That's what you are saying.
Okay, so on that VAT subject, so how do you then address this? Because when you say that they should sheath their swords until after a certain time, we don't know when that time is, before they can begin to talk about whether or not it's the right of states to collect VAT, as it were. How do we address the point that was raised by Rivers when he says Rivers generated 15 billion naira worth of VAT in June and got 4.7 billion, and Kano earned 2.8 billion, got same back? How do we address that kind of matter?
I wasn't part of the sharing, but the food that is being eaten by a number of states, still come from my state, and they still come from the north. And so supposing we now come and put a very high tax on food, then this nation will go into flames. That's what you are saying, that in as much as I'm not part of the sharing, there is no way, in a relationship, you will get, 100% of what you put in. It doesn't work that way. And you can never be sure that Kano generated 2.8 and got exactly 2.8. It's not possible. Even if it's 2.815 or something like that. So it's that figure is not right. And it's only Ramfac or FRS, but I can tell you that it's not right.
Your Excellency, what I find interesting is when you say that that states cannot merge, because we've been told for a while now that the states as they are currently are not viable, especially without oil money coming to the states, and federation, that's monies from the federation accounts coming to the states. But we've been told that oil money is in peril and that at some point it could dry up, and we've been seeing the signs of the volatility on the market. There have been questions as to what will happen at the state level, that states need to wean themselves, and that if that is not going to happen, rather than clamoring for more states, at some point states might need to merge to reduce the cost of governance. And you say that merging is not an option for you. Why is this so?
Nobody prays to go back to, slavery, because Ebonyi people are very happy to have their own state. And that's why before now, Ebonyi State was the dust of the nation, but it's not so any longer, because, we have a state. And so far, the state and the local government are still the indices of sharing of federation account. The Southeast ought to have, their state, so as to be at par with other, regions. Don't make mistake about that. So what I am, saying is that this last drop of the rain. I've given a lecture in UNN about, using the last drop of this oil, to develop the weak links in the states, So it is very important for federal government to sit back and say, look, this is the terminal date. We expected something, we will be expecting something from oil. Don't forget that in this nation, that there were times that there was no contribution from NNPC in terms of oil, in a federation account. But Mr. President and the CBN governor, and the Minister of Finance, they sat back and did quite a lot, including the Vice President, to see how the nation, was, stabilized at that time. And nobody knew about it. So it's a matter of sitting down to say, okay, let's develop, with this last drop of rain, in terms of oil, let's develop the economy of, Ebonyi State in this direction. Let's develop the economy of Jigawa State in this direction.
This is a time that was long. This is a time that was long foreseen, Your Excellency. There have been talks around this for a while. It doesn't look like states have been taking this warning seriously enough. Because it looks like the time is coming sooner rather than later. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, we've seen how volatile oil prices could become, and how, without warning, these things could just immediately happen. It looks like it's happening now with VAT. Excuse me. What do you think should be the situation right now with states? I mean, how urgently, if you're going to cut cost of governance, for instance, will governors be prepared to reduce the number of cars in their convoy? Will they be prepared to reduce the number of aides that they have? Because these are all the number of things that people think are making the cost of governance quite heavy.
You see, what we have not looked at is the recurrent expenditure of states, and it goes on into salaries. This is very important. And I continue to say that what we pay out, to civil servants is a social security. Because if you use 95% of your resources to pay salaries, what are they salarying on? What work are they doing to warrant that? But it is also very important that such salaries or social security, being paid for the stability of the nation. Now, every blame is now on the federal government. But when we had so much, we said we didn't know what to do with money. We started with Fiscal. We invited nations, all over the world, and then we could not prepare the future for our children. And when oil, before 2015 was going for $120 per barrel, we also did not plan. But the same, gladiators that did that are now, blaming Mr. President. So I think that this is the time we are very serious. My people used to say that anytime you wake up in the morning is your morning. So I think that we should stop this blame game and then sit down to see how we can develop, the state's economies. There are a lot of governors that are very serious. And I can tell you that, over 95% of the governors dissolved their cabinets, trimmed down their cabinet. They were not told to do that. Because the economy is biting so hard, so they needed to look inwards. They have reduced the number of people in their convoy. But, the moment they do that, there is so much acrimony. The people that have been working with them now go back and start criticizing them, darkening counsel without knowledge. So we are running a very tough society, where all eyes on the money of, government. So, but irrespective of that, I have come to realize that when you want to help your people, You have to fight for your people. You have to fight your people, for their own good. So we have to do this by all means to say, look, people talk about stomach infrastructure. What are we talking about? We are eating our future. Let us talk about development of infrastructure and all those indices that will guarantee the future of our children. Our children are facing a tougher time like we did, when we were growing up. So this is my position about that. And it is not by saying, let every state now develop as they can. You cannot give birth to a child and then without, any form of securing the future of the child, say, child, you are in this world, you have to develop. No, we have to find a way to use the resources of the, older brothers and sisters to develop him so that he'll be able to compete. Don't forget that if there are super states and they are very terrible and weak states, they will breed criminals, to feed you, and they will be very, very highly unstable. So let's leave this VAT issue, go back to status quo, sit down. We have very serious governors. We have very good-minded governors. We have governors that have good hearts, like my father and Mr. President, whom I continue to say he has a very good heart and means well for this nation.
Well, Your Excellency, with all of this talk about lack of funds for many states, how they might collapse if this goes on, the VAT controversy, or states were to allow to collect it, many can't quite reconcile how it is then that some governors, former governors, who are now being investigated by the EFCC, associated with so much money, and they just wonder, how do we reconcile that? But anyways, as we wind down now on this, let's talk about the Southeast. Why is this sit-at-home matter intractable? Why is it still an issue?
Well, I think it's, the sit-at-home, works, to the level of an average of 70% in Southeast because of fear. It's fear. Our people are not, the kind of people that sit at home. They hustle for their daily livings. They go from one place to the other. And that's why it's very important that the word sit at home is the terrible state of roads in Southeast. It's worse than the IPOB sit at home. But let me address the issue of IPOB sit at home to say that even IPOB themselves, had come out severally to say, look, we have suspended sit at home. For me, which is madness in the first place to even think about sit at home. Because you are not sitting at home in the north or in the west. You're only sitting at home in Southeast to destroy the economy of Southeast. You can't destroy your people and they pretend that you are fighting for your people. These are youths. And the agitation of IPOB is being hijacked by cultists and criminals and kidnappers. So the whole show is out of their hands. And so it is out of fear that, we don't have enough security to protect the people. That's why the people tend to, sit at home out of fear, because many have been killed, as a result of this, and as a result of, security people not being enough to protect them.
As we wind down, on a final note, Governor, I'm sure you've seen the latest trends. I mean, you were in the PDP, now in the APC. Just yesterday, one of another major generals in the PDP is now in the APC, and he said he was quite instrumental to your move from the PDP to the APC. Is that what tipped the whole process and made you move to the APC?
I think he needs to withdraw that statement. He's my good friend. But it was, an insult of my person and the other governors. The man did not know when I moved, but incidentally, he visited me and we discussed. And he said he was coming to join me with the other governors to declare. How would somebody in PDP be instrumental to my moving? A whole governor of the state, and they're not even a small governor, an experienced governor. So he has to withdraw the statement. He was never part of any discussion of my movement. I moved to move Southeast to the center of administration. I moved to close the gap, between the center and Southeast, which our forefathers fought for, like Nnamdi Azikiwe. So, for somebody to come and say that a whole chairman of Southeast Governors Forum, he was instrumental to that, it's a bit an insult on my person. And without, with due respect, he has to withdraw that statement. He remains my friend. and a good one for that matter. But he played no role in my movement, and I'm sure he didn't play any role in the movement of the rest of us.
All right, then, Your Excellency, David Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for bullying me, Chamberlain.
I didn't believe that. We just asked simple questions, Your Excellency. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on. All right, let's